All right, welcome back to Signal. Today we're following the money and the pressure around AI. First, PwC's clients are pushing back. After months of bragging about AI-driven efficiency, the firm has started cutting prices on some services because clients want their share of the savings. If a bot does in minutes what used to take a week, why pay the same bill? Then OpenAI's cash crunch at industrial scale. The company behind ChatGPT is trying to line up hundreds of billions for data centers and chips, and at the same time rolling out a controversial erotica mode for verified adults. New capital, new products, and a lot of questions about what it takes to keep this machine running. And that brings us to today's discussion. Is AI a bubble, or are we personally feeling a real breakthrough? But first, Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm great, Joel. It's great to see you today, and I hope you're doing well too.
Good, thank you. PwC is facing unexpected pressure from its clients after publicly celebrating how artificial intelligence has made its operations more efficient. According to reports from Bloomberg and Business Insider, several major clients began asking PwC for price reductions, arguing that if AI now performs so much of the work in seconds, they shouldn't be charged as if human consultants spent days on it. PwC's chief AI officer, Dan Priest, confirmed in a June interview that the firm has cut prices for some services where AI significantly reduces delivery times. He said clients want their fair share of those efficiencies. Sources indicate that PwC's AI tools have improved productivity in some integration projects by around 30%, and that those gains have, in part, shown up as fee discounts. However, the firm has declined to say which clients or how much prices were reduced. Priest added that these cuts have plateaued as PwC shifts its focus from efficiency to value creation, emphasizing that AI enhances quality and insight rather than just speed. Industry analysts say this marks a turning point for the Big Four consulting model, which traditionally bills clients by the hour. If AI continues to reduce time spent on engagement, firms may be forced to adapt outcome-based pricing rather than hourly billing. Competitors such as EY, Deloitte, and KPMG are facing similar questions from clients, though none have publicly confirmed comparable price reductions. Analysts warn that without transparency on how AI affects cost and quality, the efficiency gains that firms promote could become a liability for their credibility. I read the breaking news about this on Bloomberg the other day, and that's why I've taken it into here, because it ties into a lot of things that I guess we all deal with in some way or shape. And I thought it was funny. I couldn't help but laugh when I read that sort of PwC was backed into a corner, and the customer is saying, well, if you talk all that shit, then back it up, you know? And
Right.
so there's a lot of meme culture around how consultants from the Big Four act when they come into companies, like they're getting ready to tell you to cut 50% of your workforce to increase your profit and stuff like that. But I definitely understand the basic argument, and I have a lot of sympathy for it. What's your take on this?
My thought on the consulting industry, management consulting, is obviously their number one bit of intellectual property is research, strategy, business process innovation, those kinds of things. But their number one IP, their number one source of intellectual property is really the strength of their bench. It's the researchers themselves, the analysts, the consultants, and what experience they have effectively. And what's happened in the consulting industry is this is one of those white collar, kind of businesses that definitely could be improved by AI. A management consulting firm does a tremendous amount of research and analysis. They have clients, they have government and private sector clients, and they use that information. They apply their frameworks and methodologies to solve very large problems. They've effectively built those frameworks, and they refine those frameworks over time. And then they apply them to solve new problems. They apply them in the same context and in different contexts. Now, the question is, they've invested in building that bench strength. They've invested in building that intellectual property. They've invested in building those frameworks. They're using AI to get more value out of it. So they're looking to AI to provide more scale for their business because they're a people-oriented, heavily resourced business. So they want to get more efficiency out of their consultants and researchers who are doing the work for the clients. So effectively what they're giving the customer is a more efficient result in the analysis of whatever business problem they're trying to solve for that client. Is that worth, if I could do that better and more efficiently, isn't that worth the same amount? I understand the argument when the customer says, look, you're using technology to drive the outcome now, but it's based on a massive amount of data and a massive amount of frameworks that have been built over decades. So you're buying into, with PwC or Deloitte or somebody else, you're not just buying in to the brute, forced labor that they have to be able to accomplish a task. You're buying into the history, all of their knowledge, all of their experience. So I don't think it's as easy as saying, because they're using AI, they're making it more efficient. Give me, 30%. If they're getting a 30% efficiency on how they run their operation, you should give me a 30% discount. They're investing also into training their own models in order to drive better and more predictable outcomes for their clients. They're spending money internally and investing time and resource in order to make that consulting service better for their customers.
Yeah, I just when I read about it, I wondered what the initial goal was for the AI use and research R&D for AI at PwC at KPMG. What's the, like, you go in and you rather have a plan for why you're trying to use AI and what specifically you're trying to reduce or improve. And I could see the point probably that just the research part of it, just getting through so much data and information and being able to collect it, and like data bank management at a company like that, Jesus Christ, that must be tough. Those administrators must be some dogs down there that run all that stuff. And I can see that point. Now, I like that the other three big four companies, KPMG, EY, and I don't get the other name, but they haven't been very public about it. And I don't know if they've just not, Deloitte, yeah, not just because they then he saw what happened to PwC and how they had to react after bragging about their AI results. I think a lot of people in daily life and work use AI without their bosses really knowing, and then they deliver on something way faster, and then they're just, yeah, I'm just that guy, I'm not, and it's not the big job of Chat GPT that just did 50% of the work or 70%. It's just, it's all my grit. So I don't care for PwC, and I don't mind them having to share some of that profit, because if your mouth's that full, if you're so full of yourself, then just expect some backlash to come at you. And so I'm not.
They
I don't think it's going to break their
just
bank,
they're definitely going to get the pushback from the customer, because the customer sees their own efficiencies using AI, and they're going to be like, well, you don't, it doesn't take you 8 weeks anymore to do an analysis of all of my information. It can take you, potentially 8 days. So you've greatly reduced the intake process for learning more about the customer's problem. Now, again, we should be careful. They're probably not using Chat GPT. They're probably using a finely tuned model that's industry specific, which is most responsible for what they do. That they don't want to like apply a generic model to solve a problem in transportation or manufacturing. They're looking to solve that particular niche set of problems inside that industry or vertical. So they're likely building their own models, tuning and refining their own models in order to accomplish the tasks of particular use cases that are in and around the analysis for those industries. I would argue that they've spent a lot of capital in order to perfect that. And, at the end of the day, this is a competitive marketplace. So if the customer doesn't like the results of Deloitte, or doesn't like the results of PwC or E&Y or whomever else, they can just go to the next and the next and the next one, right? And by the way, if it's so easy, if this work is so easy with AI, they should be able to just, like a round table, just go around and just say,
Yeah.
give me your best price, because you're all going to use the same approach.
Like Oprah, you get one, you get one, you get one, a little bit like that,
Or you
Yeah.
give me one. Yeah. Yeah. But it's funny, like turn this on its head. Okay. So if we believe that AI is going to be as pervasive as it's predicted to be in every industry, let's not even say that it's exclusive to a white collar kind of business like a management consulting, but put it in the context of operations at a manufacturing plant, or the safety related technology for transportation. Let's talk about trains, predicting collisions and things like that. AI is being implemented all over the place. So you could do all your own independent research on this, and what you're going to find is that there's very advanced and very sort of topical kind of AI being implemented in almost every industry. So now turn it on its head. So if I can make trains run more efficiently with AI for everything from scheduling to safety, as a person who buys a train ticket, should I say you're running more efficiently now, you're running 30% more efficiently, I should be able to get 30% off of that ticket? Or would you pay for that safety? Would you pay for that efficiency?
Yeah.
What's your willingness to
Yes and
pay?
no. Yes and no. I think it's very much about what industry, what business you're talking about. I think there's a lot of great cases for AI to be used. Like I've heard about an AI model predicting a cancer cell, breast cancer, 5 years ahead of time, where any human being could have detected it with any sort of CT scans and stuff we already have at our disposal. And with that, pay those people. You know, if a company finds a way to use an LLM or even at some point AGI to save human lives, to really, really develop us further, beautiful. If your model is you pay our consultants by the hour and you get it done 8 hours less of time per person, then I'm not paying that. Point blank, period. So
If it's billable hour and it takes 10 minutes to do the job, you don't want to pay them for the other 50. That's
or PwC has to be a little bit more creative with the bill state, right? If they're
right.
so quick with their consultants. So and they've said it that they're these analysts that I've spoke to. They said they're probably going to have to adapt to a different model of billing for their service. And I personally, and I that's my philosophy. I don't ever want to be billed for it per hour. I want to be billed for the service that I provide, for the outcome of that service, and just pay me for that. And if it takes me 40 hours or 4, that's my business, as long as it's done well. That should be the common denominator about it. So I think they're going to eventually adapt to it. I don't think they're going to say, well, fuck AI, we're just going to go back to spending over hours on it. But they're just going to have to change. And the clients may have did it to themselves, because they're probably going to charge even more. But we'll see about that. Let's move on to ChatGPT. OpenAI, according to Reuters and Bloomberg, OpenAI is seeking up to $400 billion. I'm going to say this number again: 400 billion with a B dollars in new capital to expand its computing infrastructure, a figure larger than total global venture funding in some recent years. The money would finance massive AI data centers projects in partnership with companies like Microsoft, SoftBank, Oracle, Nvidia, and AMD. Together, these deals commit to OpenAI to building more than 10 gigawatts of AI supercomputing capacity, roughly the output of 10 nuclear power plants by the end of 2025. SoftBank alone has pledged as much as $40 billion to its Vision Fund. That's 10% of what they want, while Nvidia and AMD are providing tens of billions in hardware financing tied up to the future chip purchase. The strategy is designed to secure the computing power. OpenAI says it needs to train the next generation of models, but analysts warn that the scale resembles late 1990s vendor financing bubbles. Despite an estimated $10 billion in 2025 revenue, OpenAI is still losing between $5 and $7 billion annually, driven by research costs, cloud fees, and data center construction. Only about 5% of ChatGPT's 800 million weekly users currently pay for a subscription, increasing pressure to find new revenue streams. One of those is controversial. This month, CEO Sam Altman announced that beginning in December, verified adult users will be able to generate erotic content through ChatGPT. OpenAI says the change is meant to treat adults like adults, but regulators and ethicists are already questioning how the company will verify ages and prevent harm to minors. The expansion comes as lawmakers in the US and Europe weigh new rules for AI safety and content moderation. Critics call the erotica feature a sign of commercialization under stress. Supporters argue it is a pragmatic step to monetize a costly platform. Every year that they say AGI is coming, and now in 2025 we got erotica before AGI, while losing $5 to $7 billion a year and needing 400 billion to come up with enough capital to meet the demand for data centers and capital needed to just have the. We're not talking about plans for the next 10 years. of where we want to go, like the new pay package for Elon
Yeah.
Musk by 2035. The
Crazy.
new pay package, by the way, is 287, no, 700, just a lot of money.
1 trillion.
We're not talking about scale in terms of 10, 15, 20 years. We're talking about next year. And the US economy is already built upon the backs of 10 companies right now that makes the ship float. What's going on? I mean, look, I on one hand always liked how OpenAI, with the amount of money that's in there, with the amount of power they had, being one of the probably the biggest chatbot provider at the beginning when they started out, doing open source things where you can use their API to build things with it. Now the argument they made about starting the erotic content, erotica, on ChatGPT, saying adults should be treated as adults, is sort of the same argument when Mark Zuckerberg says, I don't care if there's beheading videos from ISIS on Facebook because I just run the platform. I don't control what's on there. So yeah, I would, on this term, probably rather side with the critics about the erotic content production possibility coming to ChatGPT now. But you have a more pragmatic stance, I would say, on this. So what's your opinion? What's your take on the moves they're making right now?
Well, look, all this money you talk about, the investment and all the future investment, all the investment that we've had in the last 20 plus years in the tech sector, the amount of money we've spent to drive, computing in order to solve problems, you look at this as this move is like, the oldest profession is basically more exciting than solving, how to solve, find a cure for cancer, right? If we were building tech and spending $400 billion in order to build the biggest supercomputers and use the AI algorithms to solve the biggest problems that we have in this world, I would tell you, it might be worth it. But you see, this is a problem. Money changes everything, and both sides of it, both when you get it and both when you spend it or need it. So in the case of them getting the investment, there's someone saying to them at the board table, saying, we need you to make a profit. We need you to make a profit by this time. And so the fast path to that is, what are the things that our consumers will like and consider buying? What will they buy more of? How will we continue consumption and drive up consumption in a way that results in a profitable situation? And you mentioned, like Facebook, their number one product is not just their platform, but it's really the advertising that's done on the platform. It's where they're making their money. So they've gone out and looked around the table and said, well, great, we have this great platform. How are we going to make money off of it? Somebody said, we're going to advertise to the people who use the platform. Oh, and by the way, we're going to use the content that people put on the platform, and we're going to monetize that. And then we're going to advertise that too. So, and we're going to make more and more money. It's going to be a virtuous circle or cycle that continues to feed itself. And I think this concept of this kind of porn world inside of AI, you're going to see a lot more of this. This is a fast path. It's sort of like, red meat for, 80% of the world.
Boy, the stuff that's going to be created. I would pay a lot of money to be a fly on the wall for some people and their queries on ChatGPT once the erotica function is there. The stuff that's going to be floating around the internet. There's
It's
videos
insane.
AI made videos of Trump and Emmanuel Macron, or what's the Bibi Netanyahu, the Israel Prime Minister,
funny videos,
and making out, and just imagine what's possible. And it's like, I get your point, the business side of it. On the other hand, I think we're talking about something that could make or break humanity. I think a lot of cases, those doomsday scenarios might not be that, that AI at some point is going to become self-conscious and going to try to devastate humanity. But we're already having an issue, as people like Scott Galloway are very vocal about, that a lot of young people, especially young men, are very turned in. That 45% of 18 to 25-year-olds are not in relationships anymore. They're not dating. They have never asked a woman out in person. And if you can now go and have your favorite actress detail to the T of what you want them to do with whom and how long the primal piece of gender on that person should be, then it's gonna be horrific. It's not, and company that holds that much power in not just money, but in the thing that product can do. I hate to see it, to be honest with you. I think it should be more of a general mission to turn AI into something that's beneficial to humanity and not the opposite to being beneficial. But I understand it from a business side of view, I guess.
I think what you're tapping into is that as you look at this paradigm shift, is the more that we look to technology to solve our problems, we look away from each other to help solve problems
Mm-hmm.
together. So the more
Mm-hmm.
we look towards technology, we're no longer interacting with the other members of society. We're looking
Mm-hmm.
inward, and we're using AI in this case to become our companion, our friend, our guide, our mentor, instead of someone who's next door to you or across the street or, across the screen even. Friends, you're in Germany, I'm in the US. We still
Mm-hmm.
have a relationship and we talk often and we communicate and we go two-way. When you're in AI world, AI will give you, it's this echo chamber. It's going to give you whatever you want. And so if you're lonely and you're worried about, your life or you want answers, you're going to go to this source. You're not going to go back to a human. And if we see society change in that way rapidly, like Galloway's sort of calling out and others are predicting, we're going to be living in these silos where we don't really recognize humanity. We don't recognize each other's humanity. And that allows us to do horrible things. It
Yeah.
allows society to stop at recognizing humanity. And so, murder, rape, abuse, those things don't matter to people. We've been desensitized. It's unfortunate. And by the way, you mentioned the platforms before, like the ISIS beheading videos. When probably the first time someone saw that, they were horrified. But we've seen like 100 of those now. And now we're not so horrified. It's sort of like, your first drink is like, kind of rough, and your 100th drink is like, thank God, you get
Yeah.
used to it, and so I just think that's the horrible part about what we're talking about, which is the more we look inward into ourselves, but also only into technology, and we're not thinking outside in, it's going to be a big impairment for our society, in my opinion.
Yeah. Absolutely. The thing is that tying off of this story that I want to talk to you about briefly is there genuinely a part in your life, could be personal, could be in your private, in your work life, business, where you have truly felt how AI makes a significant difference in any of the big markers, being proficiency, being actually profit margins, or just you just enjoying work more because it takes over some dreaded task you once had to do. Like, I'll start for me in college. um, I do computer science, but then I also did political science, and now I moved into theology a little more. The people that write papers in theology are the worst people there are, because they think they're the greatest thing since sliced bread, and people in theology love to read. And so I love just having ChatGPT summarize it and then giving you some cool sentence to say in the seminar so you sound like you actually read the text. But we've had instances in our company where some new tool was introduced and it's going to change everyone's life, and you're going to meet God himself, and then all of a sudden it's more work or really not that much of an improvement at all. So curious what your stance is, if you have any big success story, or if you feel like it's not as promoted, sort of.
It's interesting. I'd say day to day, I use AI. I probably use AI about 10 times a day. Mostly it's like a Copilot thing or it's a ChatGPT thing. But I also have some other applications which are AI enabled, which allow me to operate more efficiently. Things like cleaning out my inbox and prioritizing things and such. But I would argue that like my primary use of AI is to organize content. It's to do research, an idea. I want to flesh that idea out. I want to look at that from different perspectives. I could do that on my whiteboard, and I do that quite a bit. But I use AI because I can get things done in a much faster way. So I can either do tasks in parallel, or I can close the time the window of time it takes to do a specific set of tasks much faster than I would manually. And I'm a context switcher all throughout the day. I've got hundreds of meetings, and no joke. I mean, I just have tons of meetings every week that I'm on back to back to back. You know this because we have a hard time
Yeah.
scheduling our podcast. But as I'm on these meetings, like what can I use AI to do while even on some of these meetings while I'm on a meeting? And I feel guilty sometimes, but like someone I'm on a meeting having a conversation about a topic, and I have to work on another thing because I have a meeting, one meeting or two meetings away that I need to prepare for. I can use AI to help me do a summary. I can use AI to collect, content and summarize that for me and create an outline. And then I can use that very quickly and say, okay, these are my talking points when I get on that meeting, or these are my talking points when I'm going to do that interview or webinar. And so I use it that way, and I find great efficiency in it. And a lot of the world I live in is text-based, right? I'm talking about writing documents and creating presentations with content inside of it, or briefs or things like that for marketing. So for me, I find it absolutely marvelous. It enables me to do so much more. And so I'm in and out of an AI environment probably a dozen times a day.
Right. Yeah. Well, what I would love to talk to you about next week, because that's been on my mind quite for some time now, is about if we move into a time where AI use cases for companies expand into, let's, for example, say a health insurance provider does their first or second level of the process of either accepting claims from their insurance or denying them, all based on AI, because it's like, or a chipped tooth, or like an ER visit for a
Yep.
broken ankle, just simple stuff that occurs quite a lot. And they make a mistake. Who's reliable? That's a big topic.
Who's liable for that mistake, right?
Who's
Is it the
liable? Is it the AI? Is it the
Yep.
company? Who's to carry the blame? That's a big topic from an individual standpoint, from a company standpoint, and then also, is it going to be the same argument from an AI company saying we're just a platform provider? Your use case is your use case or not? So that's what I would love to talk to you about next time we get together in and around anything in tech. Stephen, have a great week. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Joel. Great session.
See you next week. Bye bye.
Cheers.